The next aspect of fatigue that we're going to review is cognitive degradation in the heat. So the brain is responsible for perception, coordination, decision making, a lot of complex tasks. Now, during exercise in the heat, it does not operate at full capacity, and this is very, very prevalent. So attention, reaction time, executive function, even with small increases in core temperature, those aspects of cognitive performance can significantly be impaired. So a few reasons why the brain is particularly vulnerable is due to its high metabolic rate. It has a very tight thermal operating range, and this is largely true for the entire body as well, although the brain is a very extreme case. And then its reliance on stable cerebral blood flow. Now, what are some of the reasons that lead to cognitive impairment? Well, going on cerebral blood flow, one of the first things is when the body gets too hot is there is a reduction in cerebral blood flow, and this is because more blood is redirected to the skin. So that includes in the face, the glabrous skin of the upper face. So more blood flow going to the skin for cooling, less therefore going to the brain. There's also an imbalance in neurotransmitters, and temperatures have been shown to impact the balance of dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and then downstream you see mood, motivation, motor coordination, all affected. And then there's also hyperthermia-induced inflammation. So systemic heat stress triggers mild neuroinflammatory responses, again, directly contributing to perceived mental fatigue. So the outcomes that the athletes experience will show up, and they will manifest as lower reaction time, reduced accuracy and decision speed, decreased vigilance, tactical awareness, impaired ability to dual task. In training context, you may be able to get away with this sometime depending on the goals and intent, but in sport-specific context and playing when cognitive alertness and decision-making and rapid processing is critical, the presence of heat stress can be drastically detrimental to athletic performance. So we've got here is a chart that shows how heat stress is represented as a cognitive load. So heat stress, there really is a cost associated with it. Just like any type of cognitive task, you sort of have a cost. They're taxing on the brain's capacity to function. When you add in heat, there's a further burden, and that's going to further push the brain to its capacity to function sooner, and it's going to decrease the ability to perform complex tasks, and that's where you get into the decision-making, the high executive function. So hyperthermia really is a cognitive load. It's also important to note that cognitive fatigue precedes physiological failure. So you could still be functioning, doing sets, doing reps, and still performing at a high level, but it's very, very critical to pay attention to cues of cognitive load, of fatigue, being dazed, distracted, confused. These are warning signs that should prompt attention or call to the fact that there may be heat stress that is impairing the athlete and putting them at greater risk. So for mitigation and monitoring, behavioral cues, paying attention is important. Using pre-cooling where appropriate and intra or per cooling as best as possible to try and manage temperature throughout the duration of whatever activity. And obviously that should be put into place accordingly based on the environment that you're in and the context. And then limit task complexity. A lot of this is really programming. It's understanding the stressors that the athletes are in and how to best prepare them to perform at the highest level.